Good morning, everyone. We need a higher. Great, thank you. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name's Leigh Kerr and my partner Mick Harrison. We're from Australia and we've got Kagi, otherwise known as Brook Nobelius. You want to have a seat for a minute? Yeah. Rest, my friend. Okay, so we live in Australia, as we said, and we've come out to see our very special friends, and thank you very much for the invitation for the second year in a row. Also, I'd like to thank Mary Alice for putting us up. Thank you very much. So we're in Australia, and to give you a demographic of where we are, if you look at a picture of Australia, we're on the right-hand side, right down the bottom at Melbourne. And we live in a suburb, so to drive to Melbourne it would take about 1 hour. And we're in a suburb, we don't really want to be there, do we? No. But we're stuck there for now anyway. And to get to Kagi's house, it would take us a 3-hour drive. And he lives in the sticks, like way out in the bush. He's like a bushman. And occasionally we go up there and we see him, and we usually hang out and stay and stuff like that. And he has all the owies come to his property. And he's going to share some of those experiences with you all today. Come closer. That's it. So we, Mick and I began a group called Talk Group Australia back in 2013. I was meditating and I was getting lots of channeled messages from my guides, and Mick and I are ET experiencers, and when I was 12 I had an experience with the Arcturian and a Pleiadian, and they spoke to me and gave me some information about what I'm to do with my life. And during this meditation, which was about 6 years ago, I was getting messages that I was to form groups that would be all over the world. So we've got Facebook groups, Talk Group Australia, New Zealand, Talk Group Sweden, Talk Group Germany, and Talk Group Canada. And these groups are implemented to help a collective consciousness. The groups are there for people that are like-minded to share and help bring in the new earth and the frequencies. And we also formed Yowie Down Under because we were having many experiences with the Yowies back at home. And we've been doing that for 2 years?
Yeah, about that. Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about the group, Yowie Down Under?
Hi guys. Yowie Down Under was formed mainly due to my experience in 2008, because on that day when I had my experience, I actually was witnessing a Yowie without even knowing I was looking at one, and I was hypnotically regressed by a lady called Mary Rodwell, and Mary Rodwell hypnotically regressed me, and I found out that I actually was looking at a Yowie on the same day as I saw my extraterrestrial. And then years later, or several years later, I happened to come across a book written by this gentleman here, and the correlations of the book and the star visitors were just amazing, and I didn't realise that they were interconnected. Like, I was freaked out enough as it was just seeing a little ET, and then I found out under hypnotic regression that I'd seen a yowie. And from that point, we decided to form and make a group called Yowie Down Under, and we have lots of different people that have shared their experiences with all that. And I'm extremely fortunate because we have a guy over home. He's he's an Australian Aboriginal, and he's what they call the keeper of the secrets. And certain people are selected in a tribe over home to keep the secrets of the stories. And he is a part of our group, and he's given me some amazing information. But there's a certain point where he cuts off, and he's not allowed to talk about it. And I totally respect that, but he fringes around the information and sort of gives you snippets. And he just very quickly, he gave me a message to say that he wanted something brought from Australia to give to you guys to touch as a part of Australia. And I've got this special rock, so if anyone wants to touch a part of Australia, this is from Australia, and you're more than welcome to come up and touch it.
We'll share that story about this special rock a little during this talk, because that's a pretty amazing thing. Yeah. Okay, so do you want to just talk about...
Yeah, okay. This is me back in the days when I was an arborist or a tree surgeon, and that Toyota in the background, the vehicle, is actually the vehicle I was driving on the day when I had my ET experience. And if you look from left to right, the guy on the far left, the big tall guy, he's had ET experiences. He found himself levitating above his bed one morning. The guy next to him, he's had nothing, and the other guy next to him's had nothing. But these are my co-workers. But this is the spot where it actually happened, and that's my Toyota Land Cruiser. And if you look with where the door is open on the cabinet at the back, around about 25 metres from that cabinet is where I saw my extraterrestrial standing there looking at me on March the 5th, 2008. And this is just this is where he was. And on the day when I drove into this property, I had this overwhelming feeling of being watched. It was the most intense feeling of being watched, and I'd never ever had it before. And you know, at that time I was a hunter. I'm no longer a hunter, but at the time I was, and you know, and I'm looking around thinking, what is this? You know, is it a hawk up a tree, or a wedge-tailed eagle, or a feral cat or something? And what I found out through hypnotic regression is in the background, underneath that fern, there was actually a yowie sort of squatting down there.
We'll get to that.
This is the being that I saw. This is a representation of what I saw. Christine Dennett drew this picture for me, and that's almost identical to what I saw on the day. And it wasn't grey, it was sort of more of a pearly white colour. And the thing that this image has got gentle eyes, and on the day all I saw was very big black eyes. They were very Asian shaped, you know, with the slant like that. But that was pretty scary when you're told that they don't exist.
About 2 years ago, we went back to the property. Mick wanted to show me where this all took place. So we went back to the property, and you know, he was saying it happened over here and everything, and we decided to take pictures of the property. We were going to put together a little documentary that never actually happened. And so just recently we were looking at those pictures, and we see that there's a yowie in the picture. Can you see that? Oh, that's really hard to see.
If you look, it's right in the middle, and you can actually, if you know where to look, you can see a face.
It's actually really clear on this screen, but it's very hard to see up there.
Use the mouse to point to the arrow.
Okay.
down a bit.
So this is the top of his head, and he's got a bit of a arch here, and his eyes are here and here.
And then his nose down.
And you can kind of see his body behind this tree here. Yeah.
It's not really clear here.
Is that better? Can you see here? Yeah. Eyes and the head here. Okay. We went up to a mountain called Mount Cannibal, and this was lots of cannibals up there. They in Australia they just eat each other. No, just kidding. We're really territorial there. We're just yeah. There's yeah. So we decided to hike up this mountain with actually your cousin Brett. Yeah, so we went up there with Brett. And Mick said, okay, I'm going to put it out to the Yowies to give me a sign that they're there. And so he did that, and the next morning we went up, and the first thing we saw was this. Ta-da! This beautiful structure. And, it was just... Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah. No, that wasn't. Mick and I are very awake and aware people, and we realise that they put fluoride in our water, and we don't drink that water, so we collect water up in the mountains and we bring it back and we filter it and we drink it. And we collect water from this place called Bunyip State Forest, which is where the Yowies are. And this is just before we met you, and you said, oh, you've got to go up to there. You know, there's stuff there. And we'd already been there once, and we'd seen lights in the forest lights. And we went up there one day, and every time we went to collect water, you just feel them watching you, and you can feel their presence. And this one particular day, we went up, and I said to Mick, I'm just going to sit on this rock and do a little meditation while you start collecting the water. And all of a sudden, an Aboriginal woman popped in, and she was really strong, and I saw her sitting there cross-legged, and she had this like a shawl or blanket thing, and she started telling me that she's really connected to the land, and she's a powerful, strong medicine woman, and she's connected to all the clans, and they call her Mother, and she's called Mother. And I remember I told you about her, and then Brook started getting information about the woman that I was picking up, he was picking up, and we're kind of bouncing backwards and forwards. But we started to take photos of the area, and we kept getting these blue lights showing up in the pictures. And it's not that clear here, but you can actually see here there's like a blue plasma, and there's a group of Yowies there in their interdimensional form. You can kind of see them a little bit, but they're more interdimensional. And then over here you've got a really big face here. It's almost Aboriginal, I'd say. You can't see there. Yeah, maybe. So the face is here. And the blue plasma here. I've got a close-up of the blue. Can you make out something there? I actually have photographs and I have an album, so if you do want to look, I can show you.
You must clear it.
And all the time we get blue orbs. Wherever we go, we get these magnificent blue orbs, and the colour is just amazing. And we walked further around the back of this track, and eventually we came across this statue, and it was this Aboriginal woman sitting cross-legged with this shawl around her. And I said, "Oh my goodness, that's her." Do you want to talk some about what you got with the Aboriginal lady? Because she led us back several times, and one time we were making plans of going out there the next day, and we were just talking about what we're going to do and what to take and what to pack, and all of a sudden she popped in again, and the hairs on my arms just stood up, and I said, "Oh, she's telling me about this thing to carry," and it was like this long kind of object. And I said to Mick, "Do you know what it is?" And he said...
Yeah, I said, I guess it's a message stick, and I've got one. And
I sort of said, "Oh, wow." And I said, "Yeah, she's saying you have to have the point in the front and to walk the track, stay on the track, and when you walk, just hold it in front of you in the right hand." And she said it will offer you protection. So, and you were kind of in this conversation. Do you want to say anything? No, not really. Yeah. But that was really amazing, and that was when we went back to a place called Labatouche Caves, and once again it's traditional Aboriginal land. And we went down and we got sort of telepathy to go to this place and connect with the Yowies down there. Do you want to say a bit?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this is a Labatouche Caves. It's around about a 1.5 kilometre walk down into the place. And when we got down into here, there's, as you can see, there's some stairs that go down to the entrance of the cave. And this cave is a natural cave. It's just all giant granite boulders that have landed on top of one another, and then the soil's gone over the top of it, and you can actually crawl through it. It goes for around about, probably about 800 metres, and I've actually been through it when I was about 15 years old. This point here, Leigh got extremely tired, and part of the phenomena of Yowies and Sasquatches, they can put you to sleep. And I was up on the top of this sort of vertical ladder, and I took this photo, and Leigh said, I can't keep my eyes open, and she sort of had a little bit of a cat nap, and then not long after that she woke up. Well, no, it might have been only a few minutes, and then she said, when I was a kid I used to make this noise, and it used to attract butterflies. So she started making this ooh noise. Oh, I can't even remember what it was, and next minute along come this butterfly, right? And I thought, this is weird. And it's floating around and around us, and then it come down and it landed right beside her. And then this is when, not long after that, this is when the exciting part happened, and I'll let Leigh say that bit.
Yeah, the noise is just a toning, because I have light codes in my throat, so you can do the toning, and it kind of attracts. And yeah, so I used to do that with the butterflies when I was a child, and I met Garrett yesterday, and he was doing the toning, and I'm like, oh wow, now I know someone else. So anyway, I got very tired, and I really wanted to just sleep, but I shut my eyes, and I was just communicating with the Yowie, as we know as Armorage, and I was just saying, look, we're just here in peace, and we love you, and if you want to come out and show us yourself, that's great. And if you don't, that's fine. But, we're just here for you and connecting to the land. And I'm just talking like this as I'm chilling out, meditating, and I had some gifts that we placed underneath there. And all of a sudden I'm just talking, and I hear this boom, boom, crash, snap, and it's all coming. And I said, oh my goodness, he's coming. And I'm just like, oh, it's all happening. And he just ran up this embankment. See how it kind of goes up? And he telepathed. He said, okay, I'm just going to show you just a little bit. And he just ran up there, and I saw him, and I was just like, oh wow, thank you. And it was just really awesome experience. These are just some little gifts that we left, like little lapis lazuli marble type things. And we went back another time, and we left some clear quartz crystals, and they didn't take them, but they took the blue marble. And it wasn't long after that I got a marble in my house. It was just a clear marble, and it sort of has an opalescence look to it. Like if you hold it up, it's sort of like rainbow effect. And that was a lovely gift. So last year in the conference we spoke, and we were heading out to dinner one night, and we were just driving along, and Brooke was in the back seat with Brady, and Mick was driving, and I was in the passenger seat. And we were driving along past, actually on the way here there's a cemetery, and just
before, as we're descending down the hill.
Yeah, just before Camus stepped out from the road, and he went onto the side, and he went through the barbed wire fence and in a little bit, and then he was just gone. So we got to see Camus, and I was really excited, and we got to the restaurant, and Grey Wolf was in front of us in his car, and I think he said he saw too, or was that another time? Yeah, he saw. And he got to the restaurant and said, oh, Leigh saw a Sasquatch. At that time, we didn't know it was Camus. And Sunbow said, oh, what did he look like? And I said, well, it'd be easier if I showed you how he walked than explain, because he had a very unique kind of walk. And he was kind of down in the hips a little, and just the legs moving, and the body was straight, and the arms were by his side, not moving, just sort of like that. And he just walked in a straight line and through the fence, and that was it. And then Sunbow says, oh, that's Camus. So
what's interesting about it, I was driving, and I was looking out the side window looking for deer and things, because I'm a bit of a nature boy, and I didn't see it at all. And Leigh said, look, it's a Sasquatch, it's a yowie.
And then Sunbow had hair from Camus that was gifted up at the amphitheatre, and he then just gave me a chunk of Camus' hair, and I keep it around my little yowie locket here. So it was a very special gift. Do you want to talk about that? That's Camus' hair with my locket. You can talk about that.
Yeah. So after we were here in America, we flew back to Australia, and I still had some time left on my holiday, so we thought, bugger this, let's go for a bit of a road trip. You know, I still had a bit of money, so we jumped on a plane and we flew up to Queensland. And up Queensland, you know, it's way hotter than where we come from. And I remember just before I left there, I was reading a story about a surveyor who was in the forest, and he was surveying in the jungle. Up there it's very tropical and it's real jungle sort of countryside, and this surveyor come face to face with about a 14-foot tall yowie, and they stood there eyeballing one another for around about 10 minutes. And apparently this surveyor was so terrified that he went out of the bush and he curled up in the fetal position for 3 days at his home, and his wife knew that he'd seen something weird because this was completely outside his normal behaviour. And it's at a place called Springbrook. And anyway, it was near where we were on our holidays, so I thought, oh, bugger this, let's go up there and have a look and just get a feel of the area. So we went up there, and on the way up, Leigh says, I'm getting this message, it's they like bamboo. They like bamboo. And I'm looking at it thinking, oh yeah, here we go. And so anyway, we hired a little juicy van, as you can see here in the picture, and we're like a pair of old hippies, you know, we're in this thing, and we camped in that thing, and we don't care, you know, some people like 5-star motels or whatever, we couldn't give a rat's razoo, you know, we just camp in that thing, we don't care, you know, the rougher the better. And and anyway, we drove up to this place, and we got there just before dark, and we picked a spot, and you were meant to pay the rangers to stay there, right? And we didn't see any rangers, so with our bugger it, we'll just camp here, and if they come along, we'll give them the money. And in the back of this little van, the seats all laid down, and you could lay in the back. And anyway, that night we had our tea and we went to bed. It got dark, and we, you know, I love sleeping, and I just drifted off really quickly. And then after I'm guessing about an hour or so, I had a nightmare where I dreamt that a yowie was poking his head through the van, looking at me. And whoa, you know, and I yelled and screamed and scared the hell out of Leigh. And she said, what's wrong? I said, I just had a yowie poking his head through the side of the van. And I said, don't worry about it, it's only a dream. But now what I know, it was probably actually reality, I guess. But what was interesting, around about 2 o'clock in the morning, we were camped here, and so you imagine I'm lying on my back, and down near my feet is the windscreen. So I'm looking out this way. I was on the passenger side, and the passenger side in Australian cars is on the left-hand side. And anyway, for some reason I was dead asleep, and also I just woke up as if I hadn't been asleep. And I look out through the window, and I thought I was looking at an old Volkswagen car. You know, it had sort of these dull-looking headlights. And every now and then they just go out and they come back on again. And in my mind, I'm thinking, it's a vehicle going, you know, along a track and sort of dipping down, and I'm not actually, like I'm seeing it go underneath the dips. And anyway, I thought nothing more of it. I watched it for probably, I guess, about a minute or two, and I'm thinking, that's weird, I don't remember a road there, and I couldn't hear any noise, there was no vehicle noise, and I'm thinking, that's strange. So anyway, I thought no more of it, went back to sleep, get up in the morning, look out through the windscreen, and there's no road, it's just all scrub. And I thought, what the hell? And so anyway, I get out of the van, and I told Leigh about it, and anyway, we walk over there, and you're not going to believe this, but this is true. We walk over, and this is what we find sitting beside the tree. This is a bamboo pole. It had been snapped off either end, and it was around about 3 or 4 foot long. And to the right of the picture is where I'm guessing a yowie walked through carrying the pole, and what I was witnessing was it blinking. But to me, I thought it was a car coming on and going down dips. And it had really yellow eyes. The only way to describe it, if you ever see a vehicle with mud on the windscreen, on the lenses of the lights, and it's a dull yellow colour, a dirty colour, that was sort of what it was like. And around about 2 months after having this experience. I remember watching a YouTube thing of this film that was back in 1969, and a lady filmed a Sasquatch walking across a field, and she described it as dull headlights. And I thought, wow, you know, what a correlation. You know, that's exactly what I saw.
So we got that beautiful bamboo gift, but the psychic message that I got the day before was, like you said, we were just driving along and it just kind of popped in, was I saw like a movie, and the Yowie had snapped the bamboo and was sucking something out of it, and the message was it's medicine, and they also like the taste. So that's, yeah.
And the person that sort of, what would you say, clarified that was Kat Hansen. She said that she'd heard that they liked bamboo, and yeah, it was quite interesting. And
all through that trip we got these little rock stacks everywhere we went, and some of the roads we took there was no people in sight. So, because, you know, quite often you think, oh, maybe a kid did that or something, but there was no humans where we went, and these little rock stacks appeared. It was almost like they were following us everywhere we went. It was really nice. February this year, we flew to New Zealand. We were having, with the talk groups, there was Talk Group New Zealand and Australia and a couple of other groups. And we had a CE5 that we were doing, and we all got together and we had so much activity that weekend. It was like a 4-day weekend. We had Yowie contact John, who's this guy here. Where is it? Here. He stayed in a pop-up van, and one day he saw a black figure just kind of run past, and he kind of jumped back and he's like, whoa, what was that? And I didn't see it, but he said he saw that. Well, that night his van was shaken for about 3 minutes, and he was like, what the hell's going on, you know? And he said, I even locked the door from the inside. And he'd heard stories about Yowies doing that, and then after a while he realised it was them, and he just said in his mind, it's okay, you don't have to shake the van anymore, you can stop. And it just stopped. And then the next day we realised that there was a big handprint on the door, and it had like a waxy kind of a feel to it. Can you see it there? It's, yeah. We also, you can't see there, but we have an ET who showed up with the contact experience. I'm just outlining it here, but if you want a clearer look, I've got that on my phone and it's really quite visible, so just come up to me and I'll show you.
What was interesting about this place, on the night we were having our CE5 in the paddock, I left my camera out, excuse me, on my seat. So, sorry, a paddock is like a field, what you guys call a field. Yeah, a paddock, it's where cows walk around and eat the grass. And anyway, we had our seats in a circle, and it started to rain, so I walked out to grab my camera. And as I'm walking out, we had a candle burning, and I watched the candle literally go out, as if someone had walked in front of it. And I thought, oh, there must be someone out there. And anyway, I went out and I'm looking around. It was pitch black. It was really, really dark, and it was overcast from the rain. And then when I turned around and walked back towards the house, I had to walk about 80 metres back to the house. And when I walked back, I heard my name called. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, who's out here? And I was like, hello, and there's no one there. But it was really, really distinct. You know, they called my name.
Mick's always saying, did you call my name? Did you call my name? And no, it's never me, but he gets that quite often.
I also get a lot of touching. It's very, very interesting. I don't know what it is. They just like to touch me.
He really likes that. So this year... This year, we got another gift which I was really blown away by, because when you realise they come to your house in an interdimensional form and drop things off and then go again, it's really hard for your human brain to get that around. And I told a few people, and then I started to not say anything, because I just felt like by the look of their faces, they were either saying, you're just making this up, or it's just, you're on drugs or something. I just decided I'm not going to speak about this anymore, and I was actually not even going to put this in, but I thought, okay, you guys are open-minded, so I'll share it with you. So for a period of about 3 months, I was having really lucid dreams between the hours of, say, 4 and 6 in the morning. And this one morning, I got a face right here, and it was an ancient one, or a Sasquatch. It was more like a face, a human face with the hair. And it kind of startled me a little bit. And after that, I woke up and I thought, oh, wow, what was that about? And 2 days later, it was, I think it was a Friday or a Saturday morning. Anyway, must have been a Friday, because Mick went to work, and he left at about 6 in the morning, and I slept in because my kids were with my ex-husband. And I got up at 8 o'clock and I went to the bathroom, and then I went to wash my hands, and there was this hair in the basin. And I'm kind of going half asleep because it takes me 2 hours to wake up. And I'm sort of looking at this hair thinking, that's too long to be Mick's hair, and why would he cut his hair? So anyway, I called him up on the phone. I said, did you cut your hair? And he said, no. And I said, oh, okay, because there's hair in the basin and I didn't put it there, and there's just us two at home. And he said, no. So, and then it took a while, and then I thought, oh, it must be a gift. And I took the hair, and some was that long and some was shorter, and it was just all kind of in this little ball. There it is there. And yeah, so interesting stuff. There you go, you can talk. Tasmania Forest.
Yeah. So I think it was around about a year and a half ago we went to Tasmania, and we went down there for a week. And Tasmania is the bottom of Australia. It's an island that's isolated from mainland Australia, and it's got some of the most densest forest you've ever seen. And before we went down there, Leigh and myself got there and we said, okay, we want to make Yowie contact because we know they're down there as well. And so we said, okay, we want to see them at the very bottom of Tasmania. It's a place called Land's End. And anyway, we went for a drive this day, and we come down to this forest here, and there's a forest walk that you go for around about 2 kilometres. It's on duck boards like this here, you know, where it's swampy or, you know, special sort of soil. And it's really interesting. When we first got to this point, we'd had a really good night's sleep, but when we got there, we started to hear wood knocks, and then all of a sudden, both of us just couldn't keep our eyes open. And we're in our car, and we both had to go to sleep, and we slept for around about 15 minutes. And as we're slowly going off to sleep, we could hear these wood knocks, and we're both saying, let's get out and see what it is, but we just couldn't. We were almost like we were hypnotised or paralysed. It was bizarre. So anyway, we went for a walk in this forest and we didn't actually see anything, but we took a lot of photographs along the way, and we tend to get orbs in our photos, and we were just talking to Marcus here last night. I got a massive orbs in my photos last night while you guys were around the fire talking. I was just taking random photos, and I'll post them on Facebook for you guys to see. But this is what we see quite regularly, and these are the type of things we get. And well, they're orbs, but are they elementals? Are they beings? We don't know. But this real big one there, that's probably one of the better ones we've got. We've also got a lady in a place called Malakuta in Victoria, and she gets some amazing things like orbs, and they look like people. They've actually got shapes, and they're amazing. So what's...
This is just recently, I did a forest meditation with a lady in Melbourne called Valeska, and she does some amazing artwork with, she just kind of channels and she draws these beings that she sees in the forest, and they're extraterrestrial type beings, but she's, there's yowies, the energy of everything there. And we just did a beautiful forest meditation. It was just a couple of weeks ago in July. And this is just an example of all the energy that you get there. And there was a few photos at the beginning. There was nothing. There was no orbs. And then there's a fence here and there's a gate here. And we started to sing, the Sasquatch song that was sung yesterday. Yes, well, I recorded that last year and we played that and we're just tuning in. And then all the orbs were coming through this gateway and then just filling up the forest, and these pictures are just amazing. And then we had some of this, plasma type energy that Kiwoni was speaking of yesterday, where you capture... Yeah, there is a face here. And this actually looks like a head here and eyes. So you can get all sorts of different things with intention. And a couple of weeks ago, just before coming, I went to a place in the Dandenongs. I was with my daughter, and it was a property that they open their gates, the public can come in and look at their garden, and it was a massive property, and you walk down and just view the garden. But there was this area that was kind of away from the public, and I was being really attracted to that, and I sensed that there was definitely yowies there. And I went over there and I saw... I stood here and I said to my daughter, I've got to go down here because I can feel them there. And she said, no, don't go. And she's kind of gets a bit scared. And I said, all right, I'll just stay here. But underneath here, and you probably can't see too well here, but once again, I can show you on my camera. There's a female yowie, and she has two young ones here. And she actually walked interdimensionally, and I could see the bushes move as they brushed against her thigh. And then she walked back and she popped down here. This is her face here, and her eyes, her nose here. She's got one on this side and one on this side, her young ones. And she was just really... happy that we were there, and she was interested in my daughter as we were interested in her. And it was just a really nice kind of telepath. She was curious, she was very loving, and it was just a nice experience before we come. Do you want to say anything else before Brook comes up?
Just very quickly, last week we had the opportunity to go to Vancouver. We were invited to a fellow experiencer. His name's Brian Bland, and Brian opened his heart to Leigh and myself. And anyway, we were taken to a very special spot where Brian has a lot of interaction with the Sasquatch, and we went to what they call the Golden Ears National Park, and we drove up into a car park, and then we hiked 6 kilometres to a spot where Brian has interaction. What was very interesting along the way, he's right into glyphs, and he pointed out glyphs on the ground, and the glyphs, you know, when he showed us and interpreted them, it all made sense, because sometimes I just sort of look at them as sticks on the ground and don't sort of get much out of it, but when he explained stuff, it really made sense. And we also, I noticed, I'm an arborist by trade, a tree surgeon, and I noticed there's a lot of really bent trees, and trees to bend, you know, from one side to the other like that is very, very rare, because, and I don't want to get too technical, but you have what they call compression wood and tension wood, and normally one, if it's tension wood, it'll split and make the tree break, and these are perfectly bent. And in fact, Brook's got one on his property down the back paddock, and I've photographed it a few times and gone and looked at it, and that's what they do to give like a message that they're there. So anyway, cutting a long story short, we hiked into this place, and like me and Leigh are getting on. I'm 56, and I've been very sick before I come here, and I was feeling pretty, you know, excuse the thing, but shagged out by the time I got to this spot. And we set up camp on a riverbed, and we built a fire, and we didn't have any tents. And we're just going to sleep on the sand, you know, on ground mats, and that was fine. And we were there, and we were talking about one thing and another. And what was really interesting is at this place, it was surreally quiet. There was no birds, there was no animals, and it was really, really quiet. And it was almost like we're in another dimension or something. You know, and I'm a man of the bush. I really take note of stuff, and it just seemed eerie. I don't know, it's kind of strange. And anyway, that afternoon we're talking about the different animals over here that, you know, like to eat humans, you know, like brown bears and black bears and mountain lions and all these sort of things. And I'm thinking, you know. But we didn't see anything. We saw some tracks and all that. But Brian said, no, we're protected. Don't worry about it. They're here. Nothing's going to happen to us. And I thought, oh, okay, no worries. So I lay back on the mat. This is about 9 o'clock at night. And I was buggered. And as soon as it gets dark, I just want to lay down and go to sleep. So I'm laying on my mat. And I think I had my hands like this. And all of a sudden, just out of the blue, I just feel just a gentle touch on the end of my elbow. Wow. I nearly went into lower Earth orbit. I tell you, I jumped that much. It scared the living daylights out of me. I went, they've touched me. And in my mind, the first thing it was a mountain lion or something, you know, because I just had that in my mind. But I'm guessing it was the Sasquatch just saying we're here. Then it began to rain. And we thought, oh, no, you know, and we had sleeping bags and all that. And we didn't want to get wet, quite obviously. And we didn't know how long it was going to rain for. So we decided to make, you know, to pitch our tent. So there we are, the three of us in the dark and trying to build this tent. And anyway, we got the tent up, and then we put the fly over it, and the fly didn't fit properly, so the fly covered the window part of the tent. And anyway, we didn't care because we didn't need to look out. And so I slept on the left-hand side, Leigh was in the middle, and Brian was on the right-hand side. And this is when this really strange phenomena started to happen. Now, I'm extremely open to anything, you know, like I've heard stories through talk group that'll make your hair curl or fall out, you know. I've heard some really, really weird stuff, and just, you know, you just take it on board. But what happened was we had a fire going, and the fire, as anyone here that's ever camped, you know, when you're in a tent, you can see it shimmering and going on. All of a sudden, the fire just went black, as if we didn't have a fire. And we all looked at one another and thought, what the hell, you know? It just went black, I swear, right? There was no radiant light whatsoever. And we sort of looked at one another and thought, what the hell is this? And then it had come back on again. The fire seemed to appear back, and Leigh said, oh, I can see a shape out the front. I can see a figure. And I'm looking, and I couldn't see it, right? And Leigh could see it, and I think Brian could see the figure. And
it was just not so much like an outline, but just a darker kind of a shape.
And then it went black again. And Brian had been talking about these different Sasquatch that he deals with, and there's one called, well, I call it Raj. It's a female, Rajahan or something. I forget what he called it. And I said, "Is that you, Raj?" Because I've found you just talk, and I've learnt that through Kawani. Because if you just talk, it changes the atmosphere. And there was nothing happened. And then Leigh said, "Is it another name that?" Ari. And then Brian said, "Is it you?" He calls the little ones the rascals.
He called them Stinkers Inc., Stinkers Incorporated. He said that they actually like that name and they get a chuckle out of it. So,
and they're like teenagers, these Sasquatch, and all of a sudden things changed, and then all of a sudden there was this white light appeared, and you could see it through the tent, and it was as white as like someone, like one of these lights here on the tent. And there was like 2 beams of light coming down. It was really quiet. And then Brian said later on after the event, he reckons he could see light beaming out from the light. I could only see these 2 columns. But at the last second, out of my peripheral, I saw a light about this round. It was like a torch, but it had 2 little lights from it. And what instantly entered into my head was someone outside with a torch on, in our camp. But I thought, how can they turn the fire out? Because the fire was black. It was just really, really bizarre. It was just... And then all of a sudden, it just all changed back to normal. And then there's the fire. You'd see it flickering, in the tent. And I'm going to be really, really honest, guys. I've got absolutely no idea what it was. At one stage, I said, it might be a UFO. And Leigh said, don't say that. Because we thought it might have been, sending a beam down. And I'm going to be really, really honest. I don't know what it was. I'm guessing it was them playing with us. But here I am. I'm still in one piece, and I haven't lost an arm or anything. And I honestly don't know what it was, but it was really, really freaky.
Well, thank you for listening to us. And before I hand you over to Kagi, because he's got some stuff to tell you, I just wanted to say I have a flyer here with all our websites and different groups. If you're interested, come and grab one. And I've also got the message from the vision I got in with Jesus 25 years ago. I've finally written the book, so that's here for $15 if you want a copy of that. And thank you very much. Here's Kagi.
Hello to everyone. My name's Raven. I'm from Australia, Victoria. I'd just like to tell you a bit about my background and a few things that's happened over my life. I grew up very closely with the Indigenous of Australia and heard the eldest stories, and I knew who the Doolagar or the Bigfoot was from a young age. In Victoria, the Indigenous call the Yowie or the Bigfoot a Doolagar. It's different to most cultures, or a different name. I met my first Doolagar when I was around 9 years old. I was in the mountains and with a cousin of mine, and I looked up and he was standing there in the physical just looking at me. This terrified me at the time. I had nightmares for 7 years after it. And the last dream, I dreamt over the 7 years that the Doolagar was chasing me, and I was trying to get away from him. And the last dream, I stopped and I faced him, and then he vanished and disappeared, so I faced my fear with him. Years later, I was camping in the Bunyip State Forest, and I was there with a couple of friends, and I had my back to my friends and the fire, and a 12-foot Dulagar came out in a physical and stood in front of me and started to talk to me in the mind and different things. It was my birthday the next day, and I had a friend coming in with his daughter, and I'd been teaching her. She was 6 years old. I was teaching her how to see and how to open up to the Bigfoot and different things, and she was travelling in with my friend to the camp, and she told him to stop the car, and he didn't know why, and she got out of the car and she pulled out a hair about this long, like a dreadlock, all wrapped in copper, from the Dulagar that I'd seen. And she told her father that it was for me for my birthday, which was the next day. So she come into the camp and gave me this long hair, and it's got a crystalline structure that sparkles like crystal in the sunlight. Very different to any other yowie or Dulagar or Bigfoot hair that I've ever seen. So the next day, I found all his tracks again, and I went off by myself to track him into the mountains and to see where it led me. And as I walked up the mountains, his tracks changed into prehistoric kangaroo, prehistoric wombat, and in the end it was a serpent about this wide. The track went up the mountain. I followed the track up to a place that was a rock formation, and it had a triangle cave, perfect triangle, which he told me was a portal, and a portal of his territory and a portal of his people. He taught me a lot about their origins. He taught me the interdimensional side of them. He also taught me shape-shifting, which they do a lot. In that time, I had spirit walk into me. So for about 12 months, I had capabilities that I find it hard to do now, because spirit walked back out of me after that time, but I could do telekinesis and different things. He started to spread the message to me about the new earth and rising to consciousness, and about the unity of the people, of the world. After that, after I had his hair, I went away into the mountains by myself for a month or two, meeting all the clans of Victoria, and I had his hair with me to represent him, so they knew who I was and who I represented. I met many Dulagar over that time. Probably now there's probably a couple of hundred that I've met in Australia. And I've started to help people with their message all over the world, channeling the Dulagar for them and spreading their message to help them rise the consciousness and the unity. Yeah, that's about all I've got to say, but it's pretty quick, but it's just a bit of a background of who I am and what I've seen and experiences I've had. So thank you for your time. Yeah.
I love that, thank you. That was good. Well, I'm not the person. Where's Kelly? Shutting down? Okay, I think now it's time for a break. So I think it's a 15-minute break. Would that be?
Excuse me. Yes. Let's see here. One moment. Yeah, we can, at this time, let me see where we're at. Yeah, well, let's take a 15-minute break, and then Shikara Tosha will be speaking. So, go ahead and take a break. Good job.